Hi, everybody. It's the Week in the Tackle podcast. The podcast where we look back at the previous week in football and try to tackle the top stories. I'm Tom Rennie. Alongside me is a man who puts us all to shame with his incredible work ethic. It is a man who works for SiriusXM FC. You know him from flying over the country with Apple covering MLS. And this week has been on the TV proper with TNT. It's dynamite, so I hear. It's only Brian Dunny Dunseth. How are you, mate? You all right?
I'm good, Rennie. I'm good. By the way, you can actually watch any of our coverage here in the United States. All you got to do is go over to HBO Max, and you will be able to have the same experience as our friends here in the United States have.
Oh, is that
covering
true?
The USMNT. Yeah.
Oh, so I could watch. So next time there's a big game against, checks notes, Uzbekistan
Germany.
or Oman, I'll
Ghana.
tune in, shall I?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're going to be. We'll get to it
October,
because actually, I actually will watch them.
There you go. Yeah.
Because like, I'm not going to talk about the Oman and Uzbekistan games on our SiriusXM FC show because I don't care. Like, I'll ask you. Sure, actually, that's true. I do get paid to do it, so I'll do that. But I'm not. I did watch Oman, so I'll ask you about it. But also, they sound like great games and worthwhile games. So I'm glad you told me that. And also, if you ever, want to share your Apple password, I mean, it's been a few months now. You get the big bucks. You're on the private jets. You're like Ric Flair around the country, jet plane riding, all this sort of stuff. Where's my password for the Apple? Like family and friends. Where is that?
It's Horsey's got it. Yeah, Horsey is distributing all the passwords from what I was been told previous to this. I don't think that's true.
I want to get into the US games and your experience of it and all that, because I didn't watch the Oman game because I don't give a about training. Sorry, Tim. So I don't watch a great deal of friendly stuff. Plus, in truth, I don't get the work, but then I also don't seek the work. So I find the international breaks are a great time to re-engage with my family and stuff, which is quite nice. Back to work this week, and I'm doing 4 days in a row, Friday through Monday. So it's going to be great. Before we get into all that, though, I did just want to mention this for new Week in the Tackle listeners, of which there are many around the world and also in the USA too. We like where we are in the charts. It's nice being top 50 in the US. We were in the top 20 or so in New Zealand a couple of weeks ago, which is terrific. We love new listeners. But I did realize we haven't done a scrape for reviews recently. So we should say, if you are a new listener or an old listener that's never done a review for the program, we love them and we want them, and good ones we'll read out on the program. So wherever you listen to this podcast, after the show, if you've enjoyed it, give it a 5-star review if you can. And also leave us a nice written review as well. The written reviews will read out the best ones. You can also, if you're listening as a podcast listener, go to YouTube and watch the show in its entirety. And you can leave comments on the YouTube videos as well. And we'll read out the best ones of those as well. And I just wanted to read this one for you, Dunny, because Dunny and I work together on SiriusXM FC on various shows there, the number one US soccer chat network, and it's a subscription service. And so, we've got some great sponsors there, but we don't reference them during the shows because they pay our bills. But I love this from Kurt, who says, I assume American, must be, right? He says this. I'll do the accent.
Oh, boy.
It says, my favorite entertainment pod. Great interaction between the hosts. It's like the best of grumpy pundits on SiriusXM FC without all the erection adverts. What more can you ask?
There are a lot of boner pill, advertisements over.
What's your favorite boner pill, Danny, would you say? What's the most effective?
Horsey, what were you recommending the other day?
Yes. What was the one you said to take, Tim? Do you remember it? No, he doesn't. He doesn't want to talk about that.
He doesn't want to talk.
No, that's why he keeps his video.
Tim will talk balls. Tim will talk balls. Tim won't talk boner pills. There's a discrepancy here, Tim.
He keeps his video off during these recordings these days because he's testing out the pills at the start of the program, and he times it for the first effing and jeffing as to how erect he is. Let's move on. So review us. Give us the stars, however many stars we're meant to get, 5 or 10, the maximum amount of stars. Write a good review, make it funny, make it interesting, and also just word of mouth too. Tell a friend how good the show is if you enjoy it, and if you don't enjoy it, say how much you hate one of the two hosts and how much you'll enjoy hating whilst walking to work. Probably do the TV star one as opposed to the lower level radio star. That's the one I would slag off because he's a proper celebrity. Right. You've been working, Dunny, for TNT, covering the 2 US games. Look, they were utterly pointless against Uzbekistan and Oman. Prove me wrong.
Well, I can tell you the background that U.S. soccer is going to give to you and to us and to the nation was because of the expanded format. Well, yeah, money. But because of this expanded format in the World Cup coming up, and on top of the fact the United States doesn't have World Cup qualifiers that they're dealing with, just has Nations League, Gold Cup, and what will be their version of, what are we calling it? CONMEBOL, Copa America. They'll flag whatever the tournament name is.
Do the acronym. I want the acronym. The world wants the acronym.
Yeah,
CONMEBOL Coppermam.
Yeah, well, it was
Copper
it was Confirmable.
Isn't that something they eat in Willy Wonka? Isn't that how the fat kid gets sucked up the tube?
Augustus,
Conker, I've got a US men's national game for you.
That's pretty good.
If you can't get Germany or Ghana, you can play a country called Oman.
Pretty decent, but I was still waiting for Uzbekistan to pop in there.
What do you do if you play Uzbekistan?
That's pretty good. So everyone's like, get back on track.
Get back on track.
So the idea is, because of the expanded format for the World Cup, the AFC, Asian Football Federation, is going to have 8.5 spots. So theoretically, the United States could find themselves with a competitor from the AFC. So the idea theoretically was this was going to be one of the windows, because everyone else is playing some type of qualifier or Nations League or some type of bigger glorified friendly, that this would be a chance for the United States to play someone from that region, to have an understanding of the type of football that they were going to play. Uzbekistan 5-3-2, 3-5-2 in the transition, versus a 4-4-2 in a diamond of Oman. So that's how it was explained to us. Now,
but that's the PR bump, Dunny, that you have to give when you're getting paid by TNT to do the game, and that's absolutely fine. You know, if you want to pay me, I will promote and support the line for anything. But this is Week in the Tackle, baby. We're a bit freewheeling here.
But
also they pay you, so
fast forward to England's schedule. Looks forward to Friday, November 17th. Plays Malta. Fast forward to Monday, November 20th. Plays North Macedonia.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just so I can understand the context in which you hammer CONCACAF.
They are games to qualify for the European Championship.
Okay, well, we don't have those things to do.
No, but
actually, no, you're wrong. Actually, we do. We have CONCACAF Nations League qualifiers, and there'll be a game in Austin and a game in the Caribbean, but we don't know who's playing at that point.
Good,
but
proper games, actual
schedule.
Games. Yeah, the
Malta,
games.
North Macedonia. Yeah.
But like your point is, you know, that it's worth
you guys play
doing a friendly.
Terrible games.
Why is it that every time I make a point that gets to your gut, that hurts
you do like the reverse? You try to do the reverse
immediate
psychology.
Whataboutery,
and then I see you do it on Twitter.
Immediate
and you try to reverse psychology even.
Look, you're doing it.
And then people see through your.
The topic is why are the US playing Uzbekistan? And
Which
you're
I told
like,
you.
Oh, England are playing North Macedonia.
No,
it's just
I didn't say
it's sad in a way,
said Malta,
because I'm trying to have a conversation
North
with you
Macedonia,
about why these games are
well,
taking place.
I told you what US soccer
you
said.
told me I can read a fucking press release, mate. Okay. Sorry, Tim. I mean, the question is, these games, you worked at them. What was the actual point away from? There's nothing wrong with making money, and I suppose selling out almost 30% of the St. Louis Stadium made some money for the Uzbekistan game. So, like, the broader question, without you getting all touchy, would be, wouldn't it have been better off here just to not play? Because there are decent games coming up.
No.
There's actual games coming up, even against, like, poor quality opponents, but they mean something. Like, did you actually learn something apart from where Oman is on a map? And did you know before?
Yeah, see, I see again what you're doing, and I'm trying to explain to you what U.S. soccer's saying, and what I'm saying is that if you'd shut up, I'd tell you. You knucklehead. Here you go. Just be quiet, and I'll tell you.
Tell me
this. Stop talking, and I'll tell you. The reality is, for me, you've got Greg Berhalter coming back. You've got an opportunity to get the guys back together, and here's where I think the continued growth and and I keep saying this on the broadcast, the eyeball test. The eyeball test for U.S. soccer is to, at a bare minimum, each and every game, the standard's been set. The standard was their performance at Qatar. Their standard was their performance winning Nations League again and beating Mexico and beating Canada and becoming the regional champion. with quote unquote the first team of European players. Now, the Gold Cup is a different animal. You lose in penalties to Panama, not good enough, but not the same team, not nearly the same quality of the players that we're seeing over in Europe. So you have a bunch of different variables at play. Number one, Greg Berhalter has been named manager. He finally gets his hands on the team, albeit without Gio Reyna. He's still returning from injury. And obviously that spider web of a situation is still hovering around the team. I would suggest that once he's healthy and fit, he's most likely going to be in the squad for Germany and Ghana. So that's another hurdle or speed bump that both he and the manager have to figure out how to navigate. Although the continued mantra, both behind the scenes and publicly from the coaching staff and the players, was nobody's bigger than the team. No individual is bigger than the team. And even Weston McKennie, who was sent home from a qualifier in Nashville against Canada because of whatever happened behind the scenes, even he was like, no, listen, I'm a good example of that. No one's bigger than the team. There is a punishment that coincides with decisions that are made individually within the context of the group. Secondly, back to the eyeball test. There becomes, and I was fortunate enough to actually sit down with Greg Berhalter, with the group, DeMarcus Beasley, Kyle Martino, Melissa Ortiz, Sarah Walsh, and our production group, and actually go through clips with him after Uzbekistan going into the Oman game. And listen, I get it. It's a really fascinating conversation because social media, not good enough, someone better, this sucks, what have we done, why did we rehire him? Within the group, everybody is bought in. And the game model, and you and I talked about zones and all this thing, like the continued proliferation of the verbiage surrounding what, how we express what we're seeing on air, then in layman's terms to a group of fans that then digest, compute, and then regurgitate however they want. Sitting with Greg and having him walk through, I think it was like 5 different clips of with and without the ball, what they were trying to do. And the idea within his game model of keeping possession, recycling possession, drawing teams out, how they play through the press, all of these things. As he's explaining it, you have an innate understanding of what they are trying to do. Now, it's up to us then to explain it on air, what we're seeing, what's success, what's failure, how even the verbiage that he's using behind the scenes doesn't compute to those watching at home, because it's just a different context or a different layer than what they're used to seeing or hearing. So as I'm listening to it, I'm understanding and then watching the application specifically in the game of Oman, what they were trying to do and the buildup and the run of goals, all of those different, and even implementing, what was it? Soft set serve was something that, from Brentford that they do, where it's the big set or the big switch. The player either gets the end line, then sets the ball back to a wide player or an outside back who then serves the ball in the box. This trifecta of a buildup, just those little implementations of things. So as I'm watching the game model being applied in real time, it's variation of service, it's quality of the attack, it's bossing the game around, speeding it up, slowing it down. How do you play through the press? How do you control the transition defending? How do you get numbers forward and still stay balanced without the ball? All of these things that I'm thinking of tactically, especially as a former center back. How would the balance look? Who's going to step? Where do I want my defensive midfielder? What's the rotation look like? All of these things. At the end of the day, performance matters. Scoreline matters. But I think the eyeball test is most important right now when it comes to a U.S. fan base that's trying to, I think, quantify or qualify what they're seeing as success versus failure, ultimate success versus a struggle. And right now, I still think we're watching a team that has now won a regional championship in Nations League and the Gold Cup. Youngest team the youngest age team to qualify for a World Cup, second youngest team to get out of the group stage at the World Cup. If Christian's goal, if he scores that goal against Holland, maybe it's a little bit different, but statistically a team that performed really well on the night, but still lost. How do they win knockout games? How do they control matches better? How do they score more goals? And then ultimately, when you watch them play, you go, yeah, they were excellent today. And I think these are the games, for me, these are the games where it's almost a no-win situation. because you're supposed to win. Style, substance, quantity, quality, all of those things. But most important, the eyeball test, because it's almost a no-win situation. To your point, Uzbekistan, Oman, when these popped up, you're like, what's the point of this game? Like, what are you going to get out of this game? And so I understand that big picture, but when I'm in the midst of it and I'm understanding what they're trying to do and I'm listening to what they're trying to do, it feels different than being on the outside and just saying, well, this is a waste. Because I don't think it's a waste, but I definitely agree with you that what they were bad at against Uzbekistan and Oman, they will certainly be punished against Germany and Ghana in a month's time.
I just think that this particular group, you obviously work intimately with the group, and I very much want to thank, I think it was John on Elon's website who sent me a picture of you standing next to Greg Berhalter at the desk on TNT and says, "Hey, Tom, I'd never seen you without your glasses before," which was super funny. So thanks.
That's pretty good.
Thanks for sending that in. I wish I was as good looking as Greg or Dunny for that matter.
Great shoe game, by the way.
Yes, I got sent a message about your shoes as well, saying you'd smartened up your trainers as opposed to because you can't wear the white Nike jobs, can you? They were
no, I
can't.
I can't wear them. I can't wear them with Apple, but I can wear them with TNT.
Quite smart though. You were wearing the kind of match of the day outfit, the black shoes with the white rim.
Yeah, those are my high tops that aren't Nike. Super comfortable. Yeah.
I mean, you look great. We were disappointed there was no salmon soup, but you did look great on the TV.
Cheers.
But I suppose the issue for me with these games is that the group hasn't changed a great deal. The old manager is back. We know. Look, we're going to have a lot of conversations going into the World Cup in the next 3 years or so. And there's good players there. There are a couple of really great players away from getting beyond the World Cup quarterfinal. Still, nothing has really changed on that score. I think the Ghana and Germany game is going to be really interesting. We'll try and squeeze in a Germany question later. But in the end, I don't think we learned a great deal from playing these games. And to your point from earlier on about when you've got to play Malta and San Marino and North Macedonia, if you're England, you've got to play them because you're required to do qualifiers. In the same way, you've got to qualify for Conor Monomona Bowl or whatever. That's fine. But a friendly against 73rd and 74th in the world, I think people voted with their feet in St. Louis. And I think that it was a misstep because I think the US are better. And they're so much better than these two opponents. I think a couple of, suppose it 3-0 and 4-0, a couple of spankings. Was it do for you? I don't think it does a great deal for you. They're a top 30 team, so play top 30 teams.
Can I point one thing out? Mexico tied Uzbekistan 3-3.
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't go that either. I wouldn't go that.
But to your point about the roster, here's one thing that, and this was something that I was really intrigued about watching. Number one, Ricardo Pepi, who was left off the World Cup roster, who got his move to PSV. He's now 6 goals in 6 matches for the United States men's national team. That's a real positive because when we talked about, who was playing the number 9, the number 9 was more of like a stand-up, hold-up rule, contain, and then Weah or Pulisic or Weston or Eunice. So that's one. Flo Balogun has now started 4 consecutive matches with Weah and Pulisic, which is the ideal trifecta. We continue to see Yunus Musa in a role that could potentially be a little bit, by the way, Luca De La Torre. I know he's at Celta Vigo. You don't get to see a lot of him. His left foot is so tidy, so clean. He ended up getting his nose broken about 15 minutes in the game against Uzbekistan. But Yunus Musa playing a deeper role. So should we lose a Tyler Adams, now we know Yunus can absolutely play. And then maybe the most importantly that I think is like a really sly, not understood conversation piece for me. And I know that he's not playing right now at Crystal Palace, but Chris Richards from Crystal Palace and Miles Robinson from Atlanta United. Miles Robinson had torn his Achilles. I fully expect him to most likely be in the Premier League come January because his contract's going to be up with Atlanta United. Those 2 players started once again as the 2 center backs. Had they been available, healthy and available at the World Cup, I think those would have been your 2 starting center backs. I think it would have been Chris Richards and Miles Joseph. So while you say there's nothing to really get out of it, there's a couple little data points in there. Again, take away the lack of the quality of the opponent that now as a U.S. fan, as the U.S. fan base is seeing, there's a couple things that are, I think, getting us a little bit more excited about what the, I think, continued evolution of the group looks like, while then adding Malik Tillman, seeing a Brendan Aronson have a little bit more of an impact role, and then a couple of individual players that are starting to, like, we never had a backup at left back to like replace Anthony Robinson. It was usually like Serginho Dest sliding over. Now we have a kid at Palermo named Christopher Lund, who's a Danish international that switched allegiances and now is he played 9 minutes against Uzbekistan. He was fantastic against Oman. Very vertical, very straightforward, sniffs out a good pass, good combination play behind Pulisic. So now you have like a real backup left back that can compete with Anthony Robinson, something that was the one position we really didn't have someone at. So I get you, but like positivity, there's a couple of things that we saw in this camp that I'm intrigued to see what happens when Germany and Ghana show up.
I tell you what, folks, if you aren't enthused now, that's how positive he gets about games against literally like no one. Imagine how good he's going to be on the telly when it's Ghana and Germany in October. I mean,
it's the Germans.
It's worth getting on HBO Max right now if you're listening in the UK, or indeed however you get TNT in the US. I don't know, but get it and watch our pal Danny on the telly for those games. And he won't even have to lie in those ones. They're actually going to be interesting, which is good. I will just mention briefly, I've chatted to a few people at Palace about Chris Richards and Mark Gay. They think they're going to be able to fatten him up to sell him in the next 18 months or so. And I think they don't think they're going to need to buy a replacement with the development of Chris Richards. 22 now, maybe 23. So they think maybe in the next 18 months, he'll be a starting centre-half for him.
You know, what's interesting is I think there was a feeling around the end of the transfer window that he would be on the move. And so there's a good I'm excited for him because I think that he's got the right mentality. He's bigger than I remember him being.
Yeah.
He's filled into his body.
Put on some proper weight, some chest weight.
Yeah. He's big now. So I'm excited for him to compete for a spot to play. The problem is Hodgson doesn't really rotate. Doesn't really.
No, but I mean, I think
but it's a good chance for him to compete.
There is a sale a coming with Crystal Palace, and there's a spot opening up, and I think you'll see him play with Anderson a little bit more over the next few months or so. Listen, I want to move on to some other bits because we've only got another 20 minutes or so together. Before we do, though, because you were there, is there anything else we haven't covered for the US? Any more bump you want to give us about these two games?
No, I think that's about it. I mean, it's your guy, your favorite player in the world, Weston McKennie, was spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm just every time I've seen him in person, he's been rubbish. And in the league, even though he seems to be getting around a lot, you know, if you look at running stats for like Thomas Soucek, for example, who we talk about a lot on this program, he's number one in every game because he shuffles left and shuffles right and he's constantly on the move. But stats don't prove anything. There's a friend of mine called Brian Dunseth who always tells me that eyeball test is more important than stats. And when I've watched him, he ain't been great. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But he looked terrible at Leeds. Right.
Hater.
I want to talk briefly about the England game, not the game itself, because I don't watch training.
You're going to defend Harry Maguire, aren't you?
Well, I was going to do that second. We might as well do that first, because the Maguire thing is
interesting. You're going to do it. You've murdered him for the past 4 years, and now you're going to protect him.
You know what's funny is that I actually haven't murdered him for 4 years.
Okay.
You have murdered him. Man United fans have murdered him. I have been, as always, realistic about Harry Maguire over the years. And we could go back 7 shows and we thought we was going to get him.
This fucking guy. Fucking guy. Sorry, Tim.
I have not hammered him anywhere. I'm one of the low hammerers. I might be like a very tiny little plastic mallet you use to put pegs in a tent. You've been like a fucking sledgehammer on this poor guy.
Only based on performance. Sorry, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah. What about when you went out for him for 1 pint in Mykonos, eh? What about that?
That wasn't my fault.
Was that?
Yeah, I ran. You don't have to be the fastest. Just don't be the slowest.
You should not have gone to Mykonos with Bratos and Maguire. Everyone knows it was going to go crazy. No, but look, the point of this and the interesting point about it, and what I think you'll be quite interesting on, away from the top bands, is that I always do this about Man United fans as well. The social media and fans in the stadium are really interesting. Yeah. And I was at the Arsenal game, as you know, the Man United game, when Maguire came on, huge ovation from the Arsenal fans, Maguire coming on. He has sort of become this sort of punching bag, which is odd because in the end, he's going to have had a good career. It might not be spectacular, but for England, he is going to be a legendary figure for England for what he's achieved over this 5, 6, 7 year period, whatever it's been with Southgate. Feels like forever, but 5 years. He comes on, scores an own goal, and I wasn't watching the game live because, again, I value my time. It's international break, it's training. But I did go to my phone on Elon's website, and there was literally the top trending subject in the world, basically. Certainly in the UK, was Maguire. And there was a video that really made me laugh of people running down an escalator and all getting stuck at the bottom of the escalator. And it was like people coming on social media to comment on Maguire, which is true. And then Gareth Southgate came out afterwards and had some incredible quotes, I thought. He said, I've never known a player treated the way he is. He's been an absolute stalwart for us in the second most successful England team for decades. He's been a key part of that. I've talked about the importance of our senior players. He is crucial in that group. Every time he goes on the field, the resilience he shows is incredible. He's a top player. We're all with him, and our fans were brilliant to him. And some England fans, a decent amount of them, were absolutely supportive of Maguire vocally when he got booed and jeered onto the field from the Scotland fans. But, like, my question to you, really, away from the fun of it, and look, he gets 150 grand a week, so I'm not going to back away from having some fun about Harry Maguire at all. That's the bargain. No. That's the bargain that the modern player strikes with us all, that we can talk about him on a podcast to, listeners around the world, and we can do it on American radio and in Ghana or whatever, around the world, because you get £5 or £6 million this year. That is the bargain, okay? There's a line, but I don't think we cross it with saying he's crap or whatever. So the question for you is, how did it become like this? How did we get to this position where he is such a figure of fun? And how much is Maguire the cause of it continuing, considering that there was exit strategies for him to be slightly lower profile, rebuild his reputation, and in the end, he's wanted to continue this?
Yeah, listen, this is a tangled web, because the reality is he is a good player. And he was worth every penny of the 80 million that Manchester United spent. At the time, he was the need and the correct signature to make that team better. And the team's evolved. The team's evolved since then. And the competition for his position, he has been outplayed, outperformed on a consistent basis, where he is no longer the starter nor the captain of Manchester United. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Here's where and listen, I do think he catches too much stick. I do feel as though it's a comedic part of his appearance. It's very easy to, here we go again, because the inconsistency of his performances and the lack of playing time have led to a player that is not in his best run of form. Far from it. And any player will tell you that it doesn't matter how much you train. It doesn't even matter how much that you do the under 23s, or you do the closed sessions against another team, scrimmages, all that stuff. It doesn't matter. There's still a confidence level that comes along with something as simple as the word rhythm. If you don't have rhythm, it doesn't matter how good of a footballer you are. There's still going to be those moments where you're either reactive as opposed to proactive. There's a slight hesitation. Do I step? Do I stay? And in those moments, when you start to get in your own head, you start to make simple mistakes. Now, the problem for defenders, and this has always been for defenders, it's one of the most difficult positions, right? Because you can be perfect for 89 minutes. 89 minutes, 59 seconds. Or the 12 added on minutes if you're the Premier League. But then that 1 second deflection, own goal, redirection. And you're completely unlucky. And all of a sudden, you go from being phenomenal with and without the ball to all of a sudden being the worst player on the field because you are closest. And it couldn't even be your fault. You could be in the vicinity on the super slow-mo where they'll say, why didn't you step to your left? Why didn't you slide to your right? Why wouldn't you put immediate pressure? And then it's up to the pulpit to decide the culpability of your decision-making and where you were on that goal. So these are all really difficult in that position. But here's my problem with Gareth Southgate. If this is true, that we are only going to refer to Harry Maguire's time as his importance to the squad for what he's done, well, that's really unfair to a crop of players that right now aren't being chosen because they're not playing consistently or they're quote unquote not better than the players that are being called in. And I know there's a gray area, and I know it's not a one size fit all. And I know you got to micromanage the personality within the collective. And that's really important. That's what Gareth Southgate really tries to do an amazing job at, and is the utmost importance, is his communication with his players. But if Harry Maguire is that important to the team, I'll throw out a name. And it's not like for like, right? This isn't apples to apples, oranges to oranges. What about Eric Dyer? Isn't Eric Dyer, quote unquote, as important to the collective?
Even though Cody.
He's not playing.
Was top manager in the European Championship, didn't play a minute, but everyone loved him in the camp, so put him in.
Yeah, so now you look at Lewis Dunk, okay, unbelievable players, right? You could say Tamori, you could say Levi Colwill. Who was best served in the run of form right now to step on the field? If we're talking about service in the moment, not service in the past.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you when I went away at halftime of the England game, when I came back on, I was like, Like, obviously you can tell immediately that Harry Maguire's on the field. Like,
Danny, let me just ask you a question on that.
Why would you turn to Harry Maguire right now in this game, in this moment?
On that, is it bad management to do this? And by that, I mean, like, we're all talking about Maguire. He's back page news constantly, but he was happy to take away, you mentioned Eric Dyer, Raheem Sterling. Raheem Sterling has gone from one of the most crucial players under Gareth Southgate, basically captaining and leading the side during the European Championships, where they were robbed in the final by the cheating of Giorgio Chiellini, and I've not moved on. But he was crucial, and now he can't get in the squad. And there are players in the squad that aren't as talented as Raheem Sterling, and Sterling was great in the West Ham game I went to recently. So, you know, why is it that Raheem Sterling, when he's not playing well, gets a little time out the England spotlight, a little couple of weeks off? He doesn't play in this, you know, glorified friendly against Scotland, but friendly nonetheless. And yet Maguire is in. I'm sure there is a force of personality there, but I mean, Jordan Henderson's there. So you've got a captain. Harry Kane is there. You've got a captain. You've got leaders. You've got Kyle Walker. You've got veterans. You've got the old guard. Is it not in Maguire's interest right now just for us to not look at him? And then in a few weeks' time, he has a great game against West Ham in the league, and you think, oh, okay, there's Maguire. I remember that guy.
Well, I mean, listen, the reality is it's still, like a similar thing happened with the U.S. team. Like Chris Richards isn't playing for Palace, right? Yunus Musa isn't getting a lot of minutes right now for AC Milan since coming over from Valencia. So, and they're still in the team and they're still starting, right? Both players playing significant minutes. So I can understand this. But even the other day at Manchester United, and listen, I give Harry Maguire all the credit in the world because he's got a really top mentality to be able to take away the money aspect, take away, whatever that looks like, financials, what he's owed. He's owed every penny of the contract, by the way, just to be very clear. He signed the contract. Manchester United owes him every single penny of that guaranteed contract. So if he's not getting it, don't leave. I'm all for that. I understand that. But take the money away. To be demoted and to lose your position, to also lose the captain's armband. Egotistically, two of those things are massive things to overcome. To show up, to show the professionalism, and to show the mentality to be there every single day, to continue to compete, not sulk, not pout, not motherfuck everybody around you. Sorry, Tim. And you try to be the best version of you. I give him the utmost credit in the world. But right now, the difficulty in this is that you're not watching Harry Maguire step on the field and having the feeling from all of us on the outside looking in saying, he's going to lock this game up. Oh, there's 3 points in the back pocket. They're not going to score. This is going to be a shutout in the second 45 minutes. Or from the opening of the match, no one's getting by him. Tough tackling, winning all his headers, good distribution, playing out of the back. Like, yeah, Harry Maguire, I feel great right now. You don't have that feeling like you do with Rafael Varane or that you do with Licha Martinez. Like, it's different. Now with the feeling, you almost are waiting for the mistake from Harry Maguire. You're waiting for him to overcompensate, step into the midfield, get turned like a top, chase, grab, pull, cajole, shown a yellow card. You're almost waiting for him in possession to hit a blind ball or hit a blind pass or play a ball under pressure to a goalkeeper that puts the goalkeeper in a bad position. You're waiting for when that ball comes in from wide service for him to get a touch that unfortunately redirects past his own goalkeeper. That's where it's at right now. So the culpability in this situation only comes down to the managers.
Yeah.
Harry Maguire is going to do what Harry Maguire has done, and credit to him. But at what point is he shown on the field week in, week out that he's moved on through this rough patch? And we're now a year and a half into this rough patch, maybe arguably almost 2 seasons into this rough patch where things aren't feeling or looking better. And it felt like almost his safe space was the England national team. The England national team call-up was the opportunity for him to re-kick his confidence in by his performances, the feel-good factor of wearing the crest, being around his boys, puffing his chest out and be like, y'all forgot. Like, I'm still Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel that way right now.
No, might have done him a favor to have a couple of weeks off. Either way, I'm not sure it's worked out for him this time.
Well, really quick, I just pontificated. Do you want him in the starting 11? Do you want to see Harry Maguire on the field? Are you confident when you see him on the field?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I agree with all of it. I'd love to argue with you, but I think you're absolutely right. The only thing I would do different to all of it is that the whole being around his boys thing, I think you got to earn your place in the England squad. And right now, it's been given out for whatever reason Gareth Southgate's chosen him. He's already got leaders. He's already got captains. And maybe it's because it's in his final 10 months. Maybe when we get to the European Championship, he's definitely going to play unless something catastrophic happens between now and then. I think it's bad management, frankly. I think we're in a situation now where Southgate knows it's end game. Southgate is planning for this final tournament, knowing that he should have won the last European Championship, and will go into the next one along with France as favourites to win the tournament. And I think that this might well be a sore on his back that will need lancing before we get there. And maybe this own goal now gives him the opportunity to say, look, you ain't playing. The queue's long. I mean, to be fair, he didn't start the game, but he should never have come on. But
by the way, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. You played Scotland. The Sorn is back. The Lansing comment. I see. I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, what do you know about the first War of Scottish Independence? Do you know much about it? Did you learn much about it during the build-up to the game?
I know that they wore some really cool kits, both teams, and Braveheart.
Braveheart is set during the first War of Scottish Independence after the King of England at the time, known affectionately, not really, as Longshanks, Edward I. He'd invaded Wales and taken Wales after some skirmishes there. And we still own Wales, whatever way you slice it, Wales, you know it to be true. And then in Scotland, there was an issue with the throne in Scotland. They don't teach this in school, by the way. I just did this in my own time. And he basically went to settle a dispute in Scotland about who was going to be the King of Scotland. One was Robert the Bruce's dad. And that's why Robert the Bruce is so pivotal in the War of Scottish Independence in this era, which is around 1296 to about 1320, something like that. And he basically went up there and was like, you know what? I think it should be me. He's basically the Harry Maguire of kings in this instance. He looked at Mark Gay. He looked at the potential of his partnership with Lewis Dunk and was like, you know what? It should be me, Maguire Shanks. That's why this game is so perfect in its timing. And there was a friend of mine was there. I had lots of friends there, actually, at the game. Some working, some drinking. And I've got to read you this because this was a Scottish fan who was sitting next to my friend. Bearing in mind, again, Longshanks, Edward I, the first War of Scottish Independence comes around the year 1300. A Scottish fan next to him kept shouting, he tells me, during the game, "Yeah, fucking Longshanks bastards." Got to cut out 2 of those there. But sorry, Tim. Sorry, Tim, as they'd say in Scotland. But like constantly screaming about Longshanks. It's been how many years? 900 years. Let it go, guys. 700.
Hey, but by the way, quick pivot. Jude Bellingham.
Yes.
4 years. Ballon d'Or.
Oh no! You did that. I'm so pleased you did that.
4 years.
I'm so pleased you did that because that was going to be my next question here on Jude Bellingham.
4 years.
Because, look, firstly, Birmingham City.
You're excited.
Recently,
you're so excited. You're so excited.
Well, hold on.
But
let me tell you why I'm not.
You don't want to be excited because there's hope. Jude Bellingham is finally giving you hope.
I don't believe that's true. We had hope when we were in that European Championship final and somehow managed to blow it because Chiellini is a dirty, despicable cheat and should have been sent off.
Of a man.
Banned from football for life. That was assault. He should be in prison. He should be in Belmarsh. Chiellini is
where he should be. Horse collar. Come on, what are we doing? Tactical yellow.
Should be in prison. That was assault, is what it was.
Tactical yellow.
But the Bellingham thing, look, great player. Looks like he's going to be a terrific player and all that. But what annoys me about the conversation about Bellingham at the moment is, firstly, Birmingham City retiring his shirt at 16, still really stupid. Okay, I'm not having it.
Chaps your ass.
It was proper dumb. And I saw a few people being like, oh, and we all thought Birmingham City were idiots for doing this. But now look at the legendary. Yeah, not for Birmingham, though. Okay. He played up 20 games for Birmingham. You sold him at 16. He's not a Birmingham legend. You idiots for doing it. Okay. Borussia Dortmund legend, maybe Real Madrid legend, maybe Birmingham. He was certainly there. But what annoys me about the Bellingham thing at the moment is that I've read so many. Here's one. Jude Bellingham is not just a generational talent. He may well be the best of any generation. Now, no, okay, no. Let's make that assessment in a decade's time. How many times do England have to do the Gaza thing? Like, how many times do we have to do the Paul Gascoigne, build them up to knock them down? How many times do we have to... The sheer amount of hyperbole going into Jude Bellingham, who, look, was terrific at Borussia Dortmund when they choked the Bundesliga, but was terrific in that team, and he couldn't have done much more. He was injured a lot of the time during the run-in. An incredible start at Real Madrid, and I'm not doubting his brilliance and ability for a second. And, you know, like you, I think he could be a cornerstone of a trophy-winning England team at some point in the next decade, and it'd be fantastic if that happens. And you know, hopefully, next time we make a final, England doesn't have a collective psychotic break and stick flares up our arses during the game and smash Wembley Stadium up and, you know, just get the right level of
Forgot
smash.
about that, yeah.
But it lives long in my memory, the horrible night that it was, certainly in Soho in central London, trying to get out of there, get out of Dodge at midnight after that. I think I got it was like the last helicopter out of Saigon, getting back to East London. But, like, part of me, Danny, I just think that, look, great. He's great. Can we not talk about him being great in the moment and potentially great? Why are we at this point doing that? He could be the best player in the 150 years of all English football. Like, I don't really get the benefit of it. And everyone was like, I was there when he played this through ball to Harry Kane. And I didn't watch the game live because, again, it's training. But I put the I watched the highlight of it, thinking, oh, I'm gonna see Maradona here in '86. I'm gonna see, you know, Messi or whatever. And look, it was good. He picks it up, he turns a couple of jocks in midfield and plays a through ball to Kane, I think, who scores. But reading about it on Twitter, it was like I was reading a great work of Shakespeare or something. You know, people giving me the first line of their Jude Bellingham book they've already started to publish. Like, am I wrong? I just want people just temper it a little bit.
I think you're about to lose your iconic status of Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard as the best midfielders since Gaza, is what you're concerned about. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't get why we do it and why we have to do it. And what
we're excited. We're excited because his player profile looks a little bit different. The way he plays is just a little bit different. And no disrespect to Gerrard and Lampard because they were extraordinary in their own right. So was Paul. I'm a Paul Scholes guy. I love Paul Scholes. Extraordinary, but never really translated as much as we thought it was going to translate because there's hype. And by the way, James Maddison and that midfield as well, like all of a sudden starts pinging the ball around, looking a little bit different. I think because Bellingham is at Real Madrid and we were wondering what the jump would look like, right? Okay, so he's at Borussia Dortmund, it's a farmers league. Then he goes to Real Madrid and all of a sudden it's like, well, hold on, like Kroos and Modric and all, you know, he looks the part and man of the matches and scoring goals. And all of a sudden it's a machine now. Now there's a level of expectation. So when he comes back to the England side, all of a sudden you're like, well, he's going to do what he's doing at Real Madrid. He's going to do it with England and make everybody better. And now he's got Harry Kane up top. This is going to continue to be an evolution of what this offensive phase of play looks like. But he's on both sides of the ball. He's got a little bit of bite, a little piss and vinegar, a little pushing and shoving after the ball and pick up a yellow card. So all of a sudden you're like, I like him. He's me. I like him. Like that's how I'd play. Like I like him. So yeah, I think that's the hype around it because when you watch a player, you're like, that's his level. Like not against them, but you're like, good player.
Yeah.
But like not extraordinary player. Bellingham's already a good player. And he's kind of in that extraordinary, he's starting to hit that extraordinary level. Like, okay, what is his ceiling? And I think because he's so young and he's so good and he's so intelligent and he has this physical profile that's so unique that's why I think everyone's hyping around.
I do think it's quite funny as well that I was chatting to a friend of mine this morning who's a Leicester fan. It was like, oh, I see everyone's going mad about Bellingham. They also discovered that James Maddison was good now. He's a Tottenham player. And I was like, yeah. Like, I had rows for like 2 weeks with Arsenal fans. Oh, Declan Rice is rubbish. He just got voted their player of the month.
Yeah.
Scored the winning goal against Man United. It was like,
Best player so
turns
far.
out he is good. It's like, everyone else we knew, but he's only good if he plays for a certain team in a certain way. It always pisses me off. A couple of quick bits I wanted to get to before we're out of time today. Let's just do international break stuff because the real stuff starts next week.
Yeah.
The Hansi Flick story is interesting, especially considering you're going to be covering the Germany-USA game next month.
Yep.
What was amazing to me, Danny, the first manager in the history of the German national team, which goes back 126 years, to be sacked, walked away from his cushy job at Bayern Munich. They then went on to beat France a couple of days later by 2-1 in a friendly. Were you surprised by that? I mean, it's a time at the German national team where the old guard have gone and the new guard aren't as good as the old guard. There's a big generational gap, bit like kind of back in 2000 when that one team had retired and they've been all conquering for a decade, and it was a bit like, let's try and get another tournament out of, was it Lothar Matthäus or something? It was playing. It was in central midfield with like 40. Might have been him. And he played sweeper and they lost against England and Shearer scored and all that. So just a quick word on that. It was quite surprising. And then the links are, well, let's get Nagelsmann and let's get Klopp. And it's like, those guys aren't going to take that job right now.
Well, so I started watching, I know you and Tim love this. I started watching Amazon All or Nothing Germany. I started watching it during the break and actually watching it. I watched the first 2 episodes before the game against Japan. My God, it was so fucking boring. Sorry, Tim. It was extraordinarily boring.
The German national team camp wasn't fun.
Oh my, I was like, why am I wasting my time watching this? This is terrible. This was so boring. I gutted through 2 episodes. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. But I'll tell you what, it didn't paint him in a great picture. It didn't paint Hansi Flick in a good picture. And like with the lack of results and the way that they did not perform or have not been performing, like I'm not surprised with how ruthless German football is that they would decide to go in a different direction.
Never
I did love
Danny. Never sacked anyone.
Well, so here's the best part. Rudi Völler, spent so much time, obviously German national team, his role at Bayer Leverkusen takes over. And the first quote I read, which is so Rudi Völler, because I think I told you, I spent like 4 months at Bayer Leverkusen back in 1998, heading into 99. He said something to the effect of, don't your pants now, boys. We're Germany and we play France next. I was just like, that couldn't be more Rudi Völler from like how I remember Rudi Völler as a player and the sporting director at Bayer Leverkusen. It's an interesting phase right now for Germany, and it has been for a while, right? Because you still have some iconic faces and you have some dynamic players and you have some highly experienced guys and you have some quote unquote lesser well-known but yet experienced guys. But these guys, this roster doesn't strike fear into everybody the way it used to. So I think now, however they verbalize what the transition period is, or who's important, who's not important, who's your number 9, where does Thomas Muller fit into this conversation? Where do you play Joshua Kimmich? Who's your goalkeeper? All this. Is it Mark Ter Stegen at this point? Antonio Rudiger, what's his role in this group in terms of leadership and accountability? It's a big opportunity for a lot of players that don't, and the inevitable Kai Havertz conversation. Ugh. What is the best positions for these group of players that are very, very, very good players, but at the same time, a lot of other countries have gotten a lot stronger. So where do we kind of fall in line with this? So Jurgen Klopp's not going anywhere. I can't see him walking away from Liverpool.
No.
Maybe if this was mid-season last year when things weren't going well, maybe that was a time where Club and Klopp could have a different conversation, Liverpool and Klopp, about what was happening at the time. But Nagelsmann's still on gardening leave, if I'm correct. He's still getting paid from Bayern Munich, which, by the way, at some point we got to talk about Timmy Tickles and his terrible hat with kind of the new rules happening behind the scenes of what he's able
going to be sacked soon,
to complain
mate.
about.
We'll do a big show when it goes. I'm going to go with the winter break. What's that? November 26th
Red
or
Christmas?
Something like that.
Yeah, Red Christmas for sure. For sure. But you know, that's for another day.
We'll say
but I could see Nagelsmann, but I could see them riding Rudy Voller for a while.
Really?
At least through the next. Well, I could definitely see him get through the next window because going to the United States, playing in Hartford, Connecticut, you know, how much time.
Great for you, wouldn't it? If it was Rudy Fuller, terrific access for you.
We were joking. We were joking. I don't, but we were joking because of the quotes attributed to Jurgen Klinsmann at South Korea.
Yeah, what's the point of being in South Korea? Yeah, well, what's the point?
Pushing back the narrative of he's got to live in South Korea to be there and have his hands in the South Korean culture and teams and domestic campaigns versus like being in California. And he was kind of pushing back on quotes like, if you don't like it, fire me type of stuff. And we were joking like, dude, what if Jurgen got hired at Germany?
Oh, yeah.
And he'd be like,
that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
It would be amazing. It'd be great for all of us, but
let's make it happen. Klinsmann and Voller, 1 and 2 for the games in October. That'd be amazing. We'll see what happens. One final quick story before we're out of time. I just wanted to mention this because, I don't get into the international break greatly. I'm all for the tournaments, but the friendlies, it's.
Yeah, you're not having it.
I'm happy. If you start paying me for it, I'll bring some enthusiasm to the game. If not, I'll be doing a couple of great games this weekend on Premier League Live, which I'm looking forward to. Apart from West Ham, Man City. Oh dear. But a quick word for Ildefons Lima. Ildefons Lima. Do you know Ildefons Lima?
Tell me.
He's the captain of Andorra.
Okay.
And this international break ended his international career after 26 years.
Wow.
As an international. Ildefons Lima, I don't know if I've said it right, but that's how little impression he's made in 26 years on me. 137 caps for Andorra, played his last game. It's the longest career in men's international football. He's now 43, made his debut age 17 in a 4-1 loss in Estonia in 1997. And he scored, in fact, in the nation's second ever official fixture. He's played in every decade since. On Tuesday, he played his final international in a 3-0 loss by Switzerland. I wonder if he ever won a game. And after 23 minutes, John Terry style, he was given a standing ovation and replaced by whoever, some other Andorran, I suppose. He is in the Guinness World Records for the longest international playing career. The longest women's record, by the way, is Brazil midfielder Formiga.
Formiga. Yeah, Formiga.
Yeah. 45 now. She played 26 years, 1995 to 2021, making 234 appearances for Brazil. So there you go, Danny. This is one of those things now, and this is like happening to me a lot, that Thiago Silva and I are like the same age.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of other players that are quite high profile. Wayne Rooney and I are the same age, which I think is quite funny. We're like born like a week apart. I think we're similar levels of life success. And it's just this is one of yours. This is like the last of like your group who are retiring. So you're having this is probably the last one, isn't it, of the Danny generation standing down?
You know what's crazy? Couple things. Number one, I dream about that I'm still playing all the time. Like I'm like halfway, like in my mind, it's September 13th, sleeping tonight. I'll dream like once a week that I'm still playing. And I'm like, my contract's up at the end of the year. And I'm like, I got to have that conversation with the sporting director of like re-upping my deal. Like, I feel like they're going to keep me around one more year, but I'm 46. And in my mind, I'm like, I can totally do it. And then I start running and I'm like super slow-mo in my dreams, like trying to stay with people. And then I got a reminder. Someone tagged me in a post the other day, maybe like 2 weeks ago, 46, 23 years ago. I was at the Olympics covering Bam Bam Zamorano and U.S. Chile in the bronze medal match. And I forget in my mind, I'm still 23.
And that was like last week in your mind, in your dreams.
Yeah, I'm still 23. And like, I then see these guys that are still playing at this level. And I'm like, even like being around Tim Ream the other day, like Tim Ream's 35 years old, still playing for Fulham in the Premier League.
He's my gen, Tim.
He scored against Man City at the weekend before going to the international break. Like, what the f***? Sorry, Tim. Like,
we're still
it's
young.
incredible.
We're still young, buddy.
It's you guys are young little minxes right now.
I know. I have so much life ahead of me.
I mean, they are. Sorry, not you. They those guys are.
Well, they're athletes. So
you're on the
young. Yeah, I climbed the stairs today, and my heart is still pumping far too fast. One final bit on Ildefonso Lima. Here's the bit I wanted to tell you. How many times do you think he won in 137 caps for Andorra?
137 caps. I'm going to say he's probably hovering in the low 20s. I'm going to say 23.
7.
Oh, no way.
7 wins, and that's in the entire history of the nation, not just with him playing. He has lost more than 100 international matches across the 26
Pretty much sounds like my playing career as well.
Playing from the age of 17 to 43. This won 7 matches and lost.
I guarantee you he can name every single one of those 7 matches.
Yeah. Oh, bet he can. God bless him and all who's sowing him. Yeah, my generation still going strong. Ream, God bless him. Where are you this week? Where can we find you? What are you up to?
Yeah, I'm back with Max Bredos. We're down in Dallas. We got FC Dallas against Seattle. It'll be a good one. And then a busy week. I've got Real Salt Lake at home. Then I'm back at Dallas. So, yeah, a little bit of mixed match, but I'm back with you on SiriusXM FC Channel 157 Grumpy Pundits from 7 a.m. Mountain Time to 10 a.m. Mountain Time. It's going to be a fun one, Thursday and Friday.
And if you want me, I'll be with Premier League Live on Saturday doing Newcastle against Brentford. It was Everton-Arsenal. The games got switched, so that's annoying because I was looking forward to Everton-Arsenal. I had Trevor Stephen in to have an Everton meltdown, which is always fun. That's available on SiriusXM in the USA on the FC channel. It's available in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Ghana, Nigeria.
You're not going to do West Ham Man City? You took yourself off that one?
Well, I have to work Saturdays. I have to be somewhere. If it was on Sunday, I would have gone. No.
Frankly. Would you? But you won't call a West Ham game, right?
I don't, because on my team, on my Premier League Live team, because I'm in charge of the bookings, I would rather not do it because.
Have you though? You have.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
How hard is it for you?
I mean, look, for money, I will do it, obviously. And if my boss asks me to do it, I'll do it. But I also think just because I'm in this whole other industry with you and doing things like doing a bit of personality, everyone knows the team I support. So even though if I was getting paid to be like neutral and professional, of course I would do it. But, part of it is a little bit, I just feel like I don't want that to be part of the conversation for listeners.
Didn't you do like a West Ham podcast this week, though?
I did do a West Ham podcast. I very much enjoyed it.
I'm a sneaky little rat. Like I can sniff you out.
No, but everyone knows. So I just try not to do it if I can. But of course, for the right money, I would do it. I'm a professional. I'll do it. I have done it. The first time I ever did a West Ham game, really briefly, was West Ham Arsenal about 10 years ago. And Jack Collison scored the opening goal for West Ham. So this is how long it is ago. Brilliant. Jack Collison in his day. And he scored, and I went too far. I had just left my old job at LBC. I started at TalkSport, and I was like, Jack Collison for West Ham. And mate, it was like a tap in from like a yard out. I went far too far. We lost 5-1 in the end. And by the 5th goal, I was like, Euro 5-1.
Yeah.
So,
the French banana hammock.
Yeah,
I also scoreline.
I couldn't even get excited about Olivier Giroud. And when that happens to you, that's when you know you need
life's over. You
need the adverts on SiriusXM FC.
Who, really quick, who's got a better head of hair? Who's got the best head of lettuce? Olivier Giroud or Emre Can?
Oh, it's got to be Giroud for a variety. Giroud is able to, even with the solidity and depth of the hair, able to try other looks. Emre Can is a bit like Mikel Arteta. It's just made of like plastic, popped on the top.
Good Lego helmet.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't comment on hair. I don't do West Ham games. I comment on people's hair.
The balls.
Because when the revolution comes, the balls will beat the heads. That's the way it goes.
You and Greg Berhalter.
Can I wrap this fucking show up?
I've
got things to do here. You ready?
Yeah.
Good.
Sorry, Tim.
That's Brian Dunseth. I'm Tom Rennie. This podcast is Week in the Tackle. If you are a subscriber to the podcast channel, you can watch the show in full on YouTube. If you're watching it on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a review and put 5 stars wherever you possibly can. Tim Horsey produced the program. It's he we say sorry to, and we'll see you next week.
Loser.